EU leaders in Brussels struggle to agree upon a divisive migrant deal with Turkey, now ongoing for the second day in a row. Also this hour on RT International, fresh images from the Kurdish town of Cizre in Turkey showing the devastation inflicted by the army. An RT-launched petition calls for a UN-led investigation into alleged war crimes in that region. And a U.S. court rules the state of Ohio can try to execute an inmate for a second time after a botched lethal injection the first time round. Just turning midday in Moscow on this Friday. You're watching RT International. From me, Rory Souchet, and the entire news team, welcome to your headlines. EU leaders have gathered in Belgium's capital, Brussels, to hammer out a deal and stop the large flow of migrants from Turkey to Greece. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel is defending the agreement after drafting the outlines of the plan with the Turkish Prime Minister. That was last week. She's been seen discussing some of the issues with other European politicians on the sidelines of the meeting. Meanwhile, Greece's Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras is becoming increasingly concerned about the migrant crisis along his country's borders, and for good reason.
I'm looking forward for a credible agreement today. Open the border! To try to reduce or to stop the illegal flows from Turkey. To create a robust legal way for the refugees from Turkey to EU.
And while EU leaders enjoy posing for photos at the summit, it's a rather different picture in the Greek migrant camps, where the refugees there are increasingly desperate for a way out of their crisis. Now, the draft of the deal seeks to reduce the number of refugees from the Middle East and Northern Africa reaching the European Union. Now, the deal would see the EU double the previously agreed €3 billion in aid to help Turkey cope with the migrant crisis. Visa-free travel for Turkish citizens in the EU would also be part of the agreement. In return, Ankara must take back all illegal migrants arriving in Greece, while Syrian refugees in Turkey will be resettled in Europe. RT's Peter Oliver has the latest.
The leaders are arriving back at the summit in Brussels. We heard from Chancellor Angela Merkel saying that talks with Turkey, which will get underway on Friday, weren't going to be easy. François Hollande, the French president, said that he couldn't promise a happy ending, while Charles Michel, the Belgian president, said that he would rather see no deal than a bad deal for Europe. And the Lithuanian president said what was on the table was pretty much right on the very cusp of legality internationally. The big challenge for the European leaders is to offer Turkey enough of a sweetener in order that they'll take refugees from Europe without pushing it too far and upsetting the likes of Cyprus, who would see too many gifts towards Turkey as cause to put in place their veto, which could scupper the whole deal. The Turkish Prime Minister, he's expected, though, to push for more talks on trying to get Turkey's full membership to the EU back on a timetable. If he gets that, though, very unlikely that we'll see a deal agreed sometime on Friday.
The Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu claims Ankara simply wants to help Syrian refugees escape the horrors of war.
Of course, EU and Turkey, we have the same goal, the same objective, to help Syrian refugees especially, and also to have a new future in our continent in a bright manner.
And we spoke to Han Etzinger, who is a professor of migration and integration studies at Erasmus University Rotterdam. He says Turkey is likely to be the main beneficiary if indeed a deal is struck with the EU.
Well, the EU, to put it rather strongly, is a bit desperate, actually, because of the refugee crisis. So the EU has a lot to lose, and Turkey has a lot to gain because they want to accede to the European Union. They want visa-free travel. They will receive a lot of money from the European Union. They want to be recognized as a serious partner, as a future member of the European Union, and there's still a long way to go in Turkey, given the fact, well, how they handle their minority problems. They have not accepted the full Geneva Convention on refugees, so how can such a country take back refugees, because it is not a safe country.
Now, Kurdish activists claim at least 300 civilians were killed by the Turkish army in the town of Cizre. This in a crackdown on Kurdish militants. It's claimed many of them were burnt alive. Now, RT has launched a campaign under the hashtag Justice for Kurds to raise international awareness on this issue. Our correspondent William Whiteman recently travelled to Cizre, and we've been bringing you his reports over the last couple of weeks. Here are some previously unseen pictures showing the true devastation in that region.
There's absolutely nothing left of this building here. This is completely destroyed. You can see the side of this building here is absolutely riddled with bullets. And this one here has been smashed to pieces. There's bits of the internal wiring hanging out of it. There's really not a lot left of this place. We've got some cupboards, drawers and stuff. This is obviously someone's bedroom. Someone's tie is still hanging on the wall just over here. It's hard to believe that this was, it looks like from the look of it here, you can see these tiles on the inside of this wall here. And this looks like this was a bathroom to start off with. It's hard to imagine that this was someone's home up until very recently, before it got completely decimated in this onslaught. At least the local kids are still smiling.
What is for?
Hey, merhaba.
Now, RT has also launched a petition urging the UN's human rights watchdog to investigate claims of atrocities committed by Turkey against its Kurdish population in the southeast. You can find it on the website change.org. For now, RT's Anastasia Cherkina spoke to members of the Kurdish community in London to find out what they think about what's going on in Turkey.
As part of our continued focus on the Justice for Kurds campaign, we're outside a Kurdish community center in northern London. We're here to talk to the Kurdish community about what they make of the reported situation in Cizre in the southeast of Turkey, where reportedly a mass killing of civilians had taken place and is yet to be investigated. Now, RT launched a petition for a UN-led investigation to take place. We've sent out requests for statements and more details and an investigation to several human rights organizations around the world, yet are yet to receive an adequate and detailed response and attention from these organizations. So we're here to try to talk to the Kurdish community about what they know of what happened in Cizre and what they think should happen next.
The international community has to really be very careful what they're actually keeping their quiet, and also the EU has to be very careful, because this is a big threat that could be even more serious, because what Erdogan was saying, that Armenians had backstabbed Turks, they had alliance with Russia against Turks, and Kurds are doing the same. So what he's trying to say is, so, you know, you will face the same consequences that Armenians faced, and this is a very serious threat. I think these are something that shouldn't be taken very lightly.
I'm from Cizre. There, the Turkish government acted in a barbaric way. People were hiding in their basements, their houses were demolished. They burned people using petrol, without distinguishing young from old, women and children. This was done to scare the Kurdish people, to repress them, so they would be afraid to speak up. 3 times our friends living in Cizre tried to report these cases to the European Court of Human Rights, so that locals would be removed for safety reasons, but they were rejected. That means the court became an accomplice to these murders.
Organizations that have as much authority as the UN should send observers. The world owes us because we are fighting against ISIS. Turkey is supporting ISIS. So is Qatar, so is Saudi Arabia. But because of economic and political interests, they shouldn't use Kurds as an instrument to achieve their goals.
We did ask a number of international organizations, including human rights watchdogs, for assistance in investigating the claims of atrocities in the Kurdish regions. However, we've received no substantial answers. Here's some of the international reaction that we did receive.
Choosing to massacre Kurds living within its borders places Turkey in breach of international law for crimes against humanity and under serious scrutiny for genocide.
I'm strongly shocked by what is happening in Kurdistan. Kurds are the only forces who officially fight on the ground against ISIS, but they are regularly bombed by Turkey.
This is terror by the state against a part of the nation of this state, while the whole world stays silent.
Whilst Turkey claims that it has been targeting PKK bases and fighters, it's obvious that it's a much wider aggression that is targeting civilians.
We find again that the media in the Western world are only reporting on things which actually fit the agenda. And of course it doesn't fit the agenda right now that the EU is trying to negotiate with Turkey to raise the fact that actually there is severe clampdowns in the Kurdish regions by the Turkish government, which goes against everything that the EU should stand for.
But we're actually in Turkey. Blanket here is covered in blood. Pretty shocking stuff.